Hello everybody, welcome to Percussion Axiom TV. I am your host Tom Burritt, and this is episode number 86. Today we continue on with the John Serry series on Night Rhapsody. I'll be performing this piece in Indianapolis on a session that basically features some of the most important marimba repertoire that we have. And it fits perfectly in that session. So what we're doing here, if you go back 2 or 3 episodes, you can catch us from the beginning. We're sort of working our way through the piece, discovering how deep it is from a compositional standpoint, hopefully clearing up some things about it that help us all understand it better, especially those of us who haven't played it. So we're definitely getting closer to page 6, so I want to push through the rest of the series. The idea is to get through the end of the piece, especially for those of you who can watch the show and also hear the piece. Hopefully it'll be a much more meaningful experience for you after seeing some of the background and kind of digging into some of these amazing details. So, last time, we started with talking about the very beginning of the development section, which featured the Serry theme, and mentioned how regularly Serry in this piece sort of pulls us back to the Romantic era, and how important that aspect of the piece is, and that will definitely continue for sure. We're going to begin to a section here, sort of the middle chunk of the development, that I think features some of the most absolutely amazing writing for our instrument that we have, period, end of story. And to think that this was written in 78 just continues to sort of boggle my mind. This is still so very cutting edge after being written so long ago, and that's just one of many things that makes this piece so great, of course. We've already, if you've seen previous episodes, we've already dug into sort of the main themes and what's really happening here. In the development section, at least the chunk we're going to talk about today, Serry really develops the rhythmic motive of 3 is just almost constantly present in some shape or form. Usually in more obvious forms where it's just 3 notes. It's things that happen to be in a subdivision of 3, like the Serry theme I just played for you. That's definitely something that he's really working on in this section of the piece. It's just really emphatically hitting this rhythmic motive of 3. The other thing he's dealing with here is the A theme, of course, the 7-note figure that we talked about. He'll do it more in obvious form like that and sort of do a retrograde. With a secondary theme that sort of comes from that is another big one that he's developing here. That's the one that sounds like this that we talked about last time. You'll hear that throughout this section. And let's see, what else is he doing? I think that's primarily it. So he's sort of using those 3 things as his primary way of developing things here. All right, so let's connect. Now that we've talked about the themes, let's talk I'm not going to play through every little thing right now. I'll play through the whole section here in a minute. But let's talk about just some highlights because there's just so much going on here. Some other things that sort of connect us back to this romantic past is seen at the very beginning of the section of 119 where we have this sort of very contrapuntal entrance of the rhythmic motive of 3. So we see 1, 2, 3, 1, and also the more obvious sort of on the same note in a very contrapuntal fugue-like section. So we connect to the past in that way. All the way throughout there are indications of freedom. There's a cadenza as part of this section. There's lots of tempo changes, lots of indications that tempo should move and flex. So those also connect us to the romantic past. And then in the section that we get to, that's sort of centered in the tonal center of B flat. And we've talked a lot about the tonal center of D and D minor being sort of the focal point of the piece. Serry also floats around B flat a lot, and really sort of the relative minor to D flat to D minor, of course. So we've got that connection too to the romantic past. So we begin with this contrapuntal section, then we start developing that theme a little bit, and constantly throughout all of this is that sort of constant, irritating sort of rhythmic motive of 3, and you can check that out. So the first really amazing section here that he's doing from a technical standpoint is all this stuff where you've got in a roll, variations of the A theme. Here's 3. So he just really builds this to a huge, huge build into 132 where we're hanging out down here and we're playing the retrograde sort of version of the first theme. effects that I'll save here for you in a little bit to show you that. That's kind of what's happening in this first major page. The second page gets into this sort of pesante, after a very obvious 3 in the left hand, A theme on the top, relative minor, this huge ostinato. There's 3 in the right hand, and this just goes on and on and on, where he spins out all this right hand stuff that's about to enter here. And he just goes crazy with 4 against 3s and rhythmic motives in the left hand and throughout. And it's really quite an exciting and very, very innovative version of what great marimba writing could be. And very challenging, of course, to the performer. We then get into a sort of a cadenza section that I won't say a whole lot about right now, just in the interest of time. And then we get back to D minor with another very obvious quote of A theme. And then now we finally come back to D Serry in the right hand. And then this little section here acts as a transition into the next major section, or the development section, which we will get to next time. So that's a very quick run through of what we're going to cover here today. Again, some of the most amazing writing that I think I've ever seen, and I'm very happy to kind of dig into it a little bit for you. So I'm going to try to get through all of that right here, so you can see all of it fitting together. So here we go. going to stop for today. So I hope you can see in there all the things we talked about. Really some amazing things happening in there. And it's so much fun to play. So really hoping you guys find this series of episodes helpful. I hope to see you all at PASIC. Please come to the session. Because this is sort of one big experiment. which is often what I'll do with this sort of platform. So really hope you guys will be at the convention. It's going to be an amazing time, a lot of amazing things happening, and I look forward to seeing you there. So the question of the episode, since I just shared some or probably the most, my favorite section ever in pretty much any marimba solo, I'm curious what yours are. What do you think are the most important passages in our marimba repertoire? Would love to hear your thoughts on that. So please leave a comment below the video. And thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.